Hi, I'm Robert Grieves, and this is The Point. This week we're talking about immersive media with Will Sweeney, Head of Business Development at the Shadow Factory. Will,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Can you really, how do you define AR and VR? Just for someone who's watching who knows nothing about this. Sure. And hopefully we'll be splicing in some footage here.
Yes, I can give you
But tell me, what's the definition of each of those?
So virtual reality is usually using things like headsets that completely immerse you in experience. So you're completely cut off from the rest of the world, and it has spatial computing, so it's able to calculate your movement and read how you move, and that is then reflected in the screens in front of your eyes. So it gives you that immediate feeling that your movements and the way you're positioning your head is immediately reflected in the experience that you're seeing. So it creates this bridge, which we call virtuality, where it sort of tricks your brain into thinking that you're actually in that environment. Augmented reality usually, and this term actually changes around quite a lot. There's people like Microsoft who are coining things like mixed reality as a term. But augmented reality nowadays is usually using mobile devices like a mobile phone or a tablet or something like this. And now they're powerful enough to be able to recognize things like flat surfaces, walls, faces, expressions, things like that. And in real time, you can actually overlay graphics on top of that. And the more advanced that goes, the more augmented it is. So you can have things, where I can share examples of this, but you can have a tablet that can look at the floor and place an object on that floor, and it remembers where it is. So as you move around it, it feels 3D. Alternatively, if you have decent enough facial recognition software, I could hold an iPad up to you and I could pull up your LinkedIn profile, for example, if that existed. It's doable, but so it's sort of a way of taking in content from the real world using a camera and just overlaying graphics on top of it, and that can be very varied.
Great.
Yes.
Now, that phrase, immersive media, what are we talking about?
So immersive media, it's quite wide range, but typically for us, particularly in our development in the work that we do, it started out really around virtual reality and augmented reality, which just, for quick explanation, is really full immersion in sort of a digital experience, and the augmented reality is more I suppose using mobile devices and creating graphics on top of real life imagery. And then other than that, when we also do immersive media, we do a lot of things with body tracking and interactive walls and experiences where we're taking people's motions and using them to enhance or interact with a game or corporate experience or something like that.
Interesting. Now, what are the practical applications? What sort of projects do you do? What sort of films do you work on, or clients, that sort of thing?
It's very wide range. It's very, very wide range. I mean, for example, some of the stuff that we're seeing being very successful at the moment or really powerful is things like virtual reality corporate training programs. So creating sort of real life experiences in 360 to allow you to practice for scenarios in, say, real estate or retail or things like that. Alternatively, we do a lot of social media campaigns around using augmented reality graphics to enhance people's faces for social media content with branding and imagery and things like that. That takes up quite a big. We have a separate team just to do that alone. So we're one of the preferred partners with Facebook in Asia, particularly just on their AR platform. Mm-hmm. So we do that quite a lot as well. And then additionally, we do a lot of things like we do games as well and simulations, and particularly things like VR games in retail. So giving people a chance to do something exciting in store, drive foot traffic, and create a fully sort of branded 360 experience in that way.
One of your founders is a friend of mine, Devin Erig.
Yes.
And Devin has told me that you have done some projects in Hollywood, for Hollywood. Is that correct?
Yes, we have. We just finished shooting music video and doing the CGI content for that. We have a couple other ones on the docket right now, which are based on, there's a martial arts one that we're working on, and we do traditional sort of CGI graphics and post-production work on Hollywood productions and things like that, and yeah.
No, I think it's really cool because I look at some of this, I guess it's VR, and I just feel like I'm falling into a canyon, or I've got a sense of vertigo. Yeah. But these are sort of special effects, right? Mm-hmm. Are whole movies done this way, or what is the future of this stuff?
There are some movies coming out now, and they're actually more and more frequently now. There are 360 movies, I believe. There was one that was nominated for something Oscar related. That was a 360 experience about being a visitor to a new country. I think crossing a border. I think it was Mexican-American border, and what that experience is like. Typically, we haven't seen too many that are full-length movies, primarily because the amount of time that you can spend in a headset, or at least the headsets that are available now, is relatively limited because they're quite large. So spending more than half an hour time, I mean, some people will argue, I mean, I've spent an hour in there before for sure, but some people will argue that 40 minutes is probably the limit, in which case you start to, it's just a little bit closed off. We're starting to get more and more of that now, but as things progress, I think we'll be seeing, and headsets get lighter and smaller and more easy for people to have in their homes. I think we'll see more and more of that. And that feeling that you're talking about as well, typically with 360 video and live action shooting, you can't really, you can't get the feeling that you're able to move within that experience. But some of the experiences that exist now are fully designed with CGI graphics or computer design. And that gives you the ability to do full, what we call 6 degrees of motion, where you can actually move fully around in the experience and it feels like you really are in there. And there are some of those which are out now which are really moving and really powerful and very well done. I've seen a number of ones around the environment and a couple ones, some very amazing stories using really intricate artwork that do that same thing.
So is the future with the headsets in your business, or where is it going?
I think it very much depends. I mean, one of the most common questions I get asked is about what's going to be more successful, VR or AR. I think because they both have R's in it, people seem to think they're comparable, but they really are not. Virtual reality, I think, in my opinion, and sort of in the work that we're doing, as far as immersive content goes and entertainment content where you want to get as deep into it as possible and feel as enveloped by it, VR is definitely the way forward. Just because that feeling that you have, that you described yourself, of being fully immersed, is so unique. And as the headsets get more and more powerful, the ability to do really super high quality stuff and high resolution experiences is always going to be there. It's just going to get better and better. But however, augmented reality, as mobile devices advance, and I think as well with the coming of 5G and the ability to transmit a massive amount of data over wireless networks, people are going to have devices in their hands that will be able to augment the world around them in such a profound way without the need for things like applications or anything to do it. You'll just be able to, follow links or QR codes or anything to bring up incredibly augmented experiences. And that's going to play a really big part, I think.
So the demand is growing.
Yes, it's really growing. It's growing all the time. I mean, even, this year, I'd say this year we've seen sort of the first real big advances in wireless headsets, so completely portable headsets. Previously, you needed quite powerful computers to operate them, and that meant that, in 2016, I think the monthly VR-connected headsets to the Steam, which is a digital platform, that was somewhere in the ballpark of, I think it was under 100,000. And as of May this year, it got clocked at 1 million headsets a month connected, wow. which is it's a 10 times jump. And in particular, the VR AR market in 2016, around the same time, at the end of this year, it's forecasted to be around $16.8 billion US, the whole VR AR market. And it's predicted by 2023 that it's going to be 160 billion. So again, 10 times in the next 4 years. So without a doubt, it's going to massively increase. And I think, in particular, people like very large companies like Google, Facebook, Apple are investing a lot of time and money in these areas because they see that it's going to be the future of how we interact with the world and how we interact with digital immersive content. It's going to be very, very powerful.
So let's get into the business of this a little bit more. So your firm, Shadow Factory, when was it founded? And tell me about the growth in the number of employees.
Sure. So we're a Hong Kong-based company, and we were started and founded here about just under 4 years ago by two of our founders, Ahmed Chatterjee and Devin Eric, who you know very well. And basically, originally when it was founded, it was very, very small. It was just the two founders and a couple other developers, and there was a lot of jazz hands selling, saying we can do these things, we have no examples of how to do it. But as we started getting clients in, and we got a few really great ones early on, we started building our team and the skill sets that we've particularly focused on. I mean, when you design in VR and AR, a lot of it is sort of a combination of the sort of things that you would need to do traditional CGI graphics in things like movies and video game design. And in sort of combining those and also having a really keen focus on enterprise-based solutions and thinking around design thinking and solution-oriented thinking and how you build these experiences, that sort of focus, the team grew pretty fast. I mean, when I joined, it was about 3 years ago. The team was about 15 people, and now we're upwards of 45. We have sales office in Boston, a couple people in New York, and now Toronto as well to do a few more things. So we're spreading a little bit. And they handle sort of kind of different elements of the business, but mainly all of the development's Hong Kong based. And so far, we're having a great growth story. And the team is extremely talented. So they've got a very unique ability to execute some of these things that otherwise most traditional agencies only have bits and pieces of.
So the demand is in North America.
There is a very big demand there. China, obviously, as well, is very, very big. I mean, they say that I think that in terms of headset uses for VR, China is looking to be one of the largest growth areas in the world.
So that's one answer to one of my questions. So that's why you're in Hong Kong.
It's definitely part of it. I think, I've talked to the founders about this a number of times, and they always have very interesting answers for it. But I think the main one for us in terms of, we're all very passionate about Hong Kong, and the sort of freedoms that you have to work here are very interesting, but also the talent pool here is very diverse. And particularly in this sort of area, you really need a very diverse talent pool. People coming from very different backgrounds who are willing to think in different ways. And particularly when you're talking about enterprise solutions, the answer is not always right in front of you. Sometimes you have to think about creating new technologies or proprietary technologies that I can tell you about. But it requires thinking a little bit dynamically, and some of that, requires people that have very, quite varied backgrounds. But also, Hong Kong provides a really good opportunity for businesses that have offices and headquarters here that actually have spread all over the world. Mm-hmm. Through the clients we have here, we do work in, as I said, New York, LA, Singapore, Thailand. We just recently did a shoot in Bangladesh. I did a 360 shoot there. So it gives us this opportunity to spread around the world, and that's the end goal, is to be the biggest VR AR brand in the world.
So how diverse is your staff? Tell me about that. Where are the folks from that work for you?
It's quite scattered. I mean, we have a lot of people from Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. We have developers and designers from Germany, from the Philippines. We've got people from Japan, and I'm English myself. Mm-hmm. We've got it's very, very wide range. Some Canadians, Americans. We try and keep it as open. It's really, the best people for the job end up coming in with us, and then we very family feeling going on in the office, and everyone gets on very well, and we've all been there for a long time. So, it's going well that way. Great.
And how many firms like yours are there in Hong Kong?
There's not many. I would argue that there aren't any like us, particularly with the sort of skill sets that we have, or the work experience that we've done. There are some other ones. Some of them are more gaming focused, but primarily we work with a lot of the agencies here as the #1 provider for these sort of tools, and we're lucky because we started this before the real kickoff of VR and AR has happened about 4 years ago, and we've managed to get ahead. And a lot of the IP that we've developed over the time is still proprietary. Some of the stuff we've done is the first in the world, and we've managed to sort of stay ahead that way.
So you were talking about technologies of the future or some revolutionary things. Could you give us just a little flavor so that the layman can understand this?
Sure. Right. I mean, so for us, as I said, we do a number of different projects, and they scale from 1 month projects that are executed once, and maybe like a corporate event or something like that. One-time executions, which is fine, we can do that. The stuff that's really powerful for us is if we're able to enable our clients to be able to make changes to their own content or have it be varied for different offices around the world and things like that. So we've developed things like a content management system where within a VR experience, our clients can log in into a web portal and make changes themselves. They can change languages, they can change pictures, they can even change 3D models.
Wow.
So it gives them a lot of freedom. And obviously, that's one of my challenges, to convince people to do things like that, because it takes more time, it costs more money. But ultimately, we have an elevator company that's one of our earlier clients, but they were really inspired by VR as a medium. And so now they have a tool which they execute over 80 of their offices around the world, which you can customize and change per each office, so they don't have to come to us to do it. And on top of that as well, we have a companion application that's synced in, so you can remotely join an experience and you can guide people. And that's always kind of a challenge in VR, is trying to tell people where to go or what to do, because it's very hard to point when they're inside the experience. But what you can do on the iPad is you can do that. You can point, or you can activate things and then read scripts and run people through the experience and standardize how someone actually views this content. So things like that are brand new, which is really good. And then I'd say, in terms of AR in particular, with the coming, as I mentioned, 5G, next year, expecting that to be, really, really significant. The jump in bandwidth and latency and things like that is just huge, or latency reduction is massive. Typically now, with a lot of the augmented reality things that you see on people's mobile phones, you need an application to use it. And the drop-off in people downloading applications is just huge. So for our clients, that's one of the huge problems. They want to do AR, but the second we say, well, if you want to do this, you have to make an app, they say no, because the drop-off is so big. When 5G comes in, the ability to create really amazing AR experiences without the need to download an app is going to just open up the whole market. So that is, for us, we're starting work on that now, and we've done a few of those different projects, and we're really just waiting for that sort of capability to give us that freedom to really do what we want.
So when's that going to happen, do you think?
I have some sources that say it should be April, May next year, maybe, in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I know they're trialing it in some places right now, 5G, but it's really hard to say. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's such a crazy wide rollout, and who knows how it goes, but in the meantime, we're preparing for it. So,
right.
Yeah.
So, Will, this program is called The Point.
Yes.
And we always want to leave our viewers with one point about the subject. What one point about VR, AR, or immersive media would you like to leave with the viewers today?
That's a very good question. I mean, I would say that one thing about VR and AR that's very interesting is that because it's so new and the capabilities of it are growing so fast, a lot of people haven't put this into their business plans or budgets and things like that for as we go forward. But the things like statistics around how information retention is so much drastically improved in VR versus traditional media, people's interaction with augmented reality brands there's lots of studies about how people connect with the brand through that in such a more powerful way, and the evidence is there that this stuff is inherently very powerful. And I would say to any viewer to keep that in mind and realize that we're on the cusp of a technological revolution, particularly when it comes to media and the way that you interact with customers. And if you're not ahead of that curve, you're going to be left behind. So I'd say keep it in mind and reach out to us. We're always here to talk and share ideas, and we're always available for that.
Great. Will Sweeney, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it.
And that's our episode for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and let's keep the dialogue going. Thank you.